Killers of the Flower Moon is the latest from legendary director Martin Scorsese, which he also wrote along with Eric Roth, a writer for Forrest Gump, Dune, and The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. Based on the nonfiction book by David Grann, it takes place in the early 20th century where a Native American tribe has discovered oil. And of course, judging by our nation's history, I'm sure things will go well once the white man finds out. So yeah, Robert De Niro was an oil tycoon who was willing to do literally anything to keep control of this land, and his clueless nephew, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, is often used as a pawn for this kind of thing. And we're talking highly illegal stuff, like murder. Yes, these are the two main characters here, and as you can probably tell, they are not sympathetic. And they shouldn't be. It's like what he did with The Wolf of Wall Street, where you hate these guys, but you know you can't look away from them for 3 hours. Actually make that 3.5 hours, because that's how long this one is. But yet, despite the gargantuan runtime, it never feels like it drags, or at least not as much as The Irishman did. It's an interesting and horrifying story, and Martin Scorsese directs the hell out of it. The performances are also really good, as expected from this cast, especially with this director. Brendan Fraser makes an appearance as a lawyer in the last act, which is either a small role or a big role in a small part of the movie. I bring him up because apparently a lot of people didn't like him, and I don't really get why. Yeah, he didn't get a chance to shine as well as some of the other actors with bigger roles, but I still don't see why anybody would call him a bad actor. Do I have any issues with this movie? Well, I guess maybe they could have done a little more to flesh out the Native American characters. Or at least have more scenes where we are put in their shoes. You know, considering the movie's actually about how they were oppressed and all. But it's still a great look at corruption and America's more regrettable history. Almost like a gangster movie on a much higher level. It's long, but it's never dull. A great crime drama telling the story of some terrible people. A story that needs to be told. And who better to tell it than the master himself?
Refresh yourself. It's intermission time. The concession stand is open and ready to serve you.
I only kept that last part in because it fit in with the themes of that last movie, and because it's not as dated or offensive as the rest of their appearance in that intermission video. I do not condone this kind of thing.
Some people have a deep, abiding respect for the natural beauty that was once this country. And some people don't. People start pollution. People can stop it.
Now, it's showtime.
The Killer, now streaming on Netflix, is from director David Fincher and written by Andrew Kevin Walker, who worked on Sleepy Hollow and Fincher's Seven, based on the graphic novel series by Matt and Luke Giacomo. It stars Michael Fassbender as a paid assassin who gets betrayed after an unsuccessful mission and travels to many cities around the world to kill the people responsible. Despite this action movie type premise, this is told in a more restrained, grounded manner. It shows a lot of the slower stuff. The plot isn't slow, but the things that happen aren't always as intense as most crime dramas. It also doesn't feel like it's building up to something as much as most other movies. It's pretty much just he kills and then goes on to the next one. But personally, I was still interested all the way through, just to see how he does his job. There isn't always a lot of suspense with the encounters, but they are at least interesting seeing it all go down. Fincher directs with style and good cinematography, and Michael Fassbender makes a cool, convincing hitman. A lot of people apparently weren't as entertained by this, but I think it at least had a more interesting story and pacing than Mank. I'm sorry that the statement, "it's way more interesting than the director's last movie" is coming up so often here. I unfortunately don't have much more to say about this. Come to think of it, I'm kinda worried the other review in this video might be lacking a little too. Either way, The Killer is a more restrained take on the Hitman movie. It's not John Wick, and I'm not really sure if it's Oscar material either, especially compared to Killers of the Flower Moon, but for fans of crime dramas who don't mind the thin plot and lack of action, it's a pretty good option. It's probably not going to be remembered among Fincher's best, but it's still far better than maybe 90% of Netflix's original movies.